Hello and welcome to Principles of Microeconomics. This is Module 7.3 and we will discuss income inequality. Income inequality refers to the uneven distribution of income across a population. It looks at the gap between the rich and everyone else in an economy. In this module, we will focus our discussion on income inequality in the United States. So here you can see a graph of the average income in the United States, specifically in 2014. What you can observe here is that this is the bottom 90% of the population. The average income of the bottom 90% of the population was just over $33,000 in 2014. Now, if we compare this to the average income of the top 10% of the population in 2014, we see that this $33,000 is significantly lower than the average of almost $300,000 for the top 10%. Now, the top 5% earned $448,000 in 2014. And the top 1% earned over $1 million on average. Lastly, the top 0.1% or 1/10 of 1% earned over $6 million. So as you can see here, there's a vast difference between the top earners in our country, the top 1/10 of 1%, and the rest of the population, the remaining 90%, earning only $33,000. Now, the gap between the rich and everyone else has been growing in the U.S. Here you can see income inequality in the U.S. from 1913 to 2014. And this is the share of total U.S. income that is going to the top 1% of earners. As you can see, throughout history, the lowest inequality that we experienced was in the 60s and 70s, roughly from 1963 to about 1983. In recent years, we see that income inequality has been on the rise. So the gap that we experience between the rich and everyone else is increasing. Now, if we look at real wages for the majority of people in this country, we see that the median wage earner and the bottom wage earner have not seen all that much improvement in their real wages. In 1979, for the median worker, their average wage was $733 in real terms. Remember, real terms tells us that we are correcting for inflation. In 2014, when we correct for inflation, the average weekly wage in real terms for a worker is $791. So the difference between earnings in 1979 and 2014 is not that great. On the other hand, when we look at for the bottom 10%, their real wages have actually fallen from $383 to $379. In contrast, the real weekly wages of the top 10% have been on the rise. And we can see that they have steadily increased from 1979 to 2014. Now, what about poverty? In the United States, 14.8% of people live in poverty. 21% of children live in poverty below the age of 18. This is one of the highest poverty rates for children across the advanced economy world. Additionally, 10% of seniors 65 and older live in poverty in the United States. When we think about this in terms of food security, being able to satisfy your nutritional needs and provide food for your family, we see that 48.1 million Americans live in food insecure homes. We see that 14% of households are considered food insecure. And 6% of households experience situations of very low food security. Households with children are reported to be the most food insecure. And Specifically, households that have children have food insecurity in 19% of the cases, compared to only 12% across all households. There are some policies put into place to try to help reduce poverty in the United States, including minimum wage laws, in-kind transfers, welfare and housing assistance, as well as a negative income tax. But these measures do not do enough to lower income inequality in the U.S., and they don't do enough to lower poverty. Thank you so much for joining me in Module 7.3 on income inequality.